So this is our layout. We've done all that. Now we're going to move on to the blocks. So our programming. So again, in the top left, right hand side, we're going to click on blocks. So at the moment, we haven't got anything, but we're going to use something called a procedure today. And what a procedure is basically a set of instructions which you can put inside instructions. So for example, in a cup of tea, one set of instructions could be to boil the kettle. There's many different options in that. So there's things like you need to put the water in the kettle, you need to turn the kettle on, and then you need to wait till it gets to 100 degrees and it boils. So that is one set of instructions inside of making a cup of tea. So once the kettle's boiled, then we can start adding different things in there. So the first procedure we're going to make is a procedure to allow our mole to move around the screen randomly, so we can try and catch it. So we're going to rename this, and we're going to call it Move Mole. Okay? So then when we come to actually do our instructions, we can say, well, in the canvas, we want our mole to move around using the Move Mole procedure. So what we're going to do is, this is for the mole. So we're going to get the mole, and we're going to find and change its coordinates so it can jump around the screen. So we're going to use our X and Y axes. I'm going to scroll down. So at the bottom here, you can see set X axes and also set Y axes. Okay, so we're going to change them to random. So the first thing we want to do is we need to make a calculation here. So it allows us to make it randomized. So it's not just in a set order, because that would be a bit easy. We want it nice and random. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a multiplication. That multiplication is going to be a times. And that's going to be on both of them. So we can duplicate that. So what we're going to times together is two things, but we also need to minus those. So we're going to add that in the second one. I'll duplicate that. And because we want it random, on the maths one again, we're going to have a random fraction. So that's going to make it randomized. I'm going to duplicate that. So what we're going to do is we're going to randomize the width of the canvas. Okay, so we're going to look at the canvas, and we're going to change the width of that. I think that's at the bottom there. There we go. So it's based on the width, that's going to be both of them, of the canvas, minus the width of the mole. And I'll explain that in a moment. The width, there we go. And then we can duplicate that to make it easier. Okay, so let's just go through that. So we made a procedure with the Y and X axes of the mole to randomly move around from the canvas's width and the mole's width. So that's going to make it jump around. So it's not going to go out of the canvas. Okay, the mole's not going to go out because it's in the canvas's width. What I want you to do is I want you to go, stop the video now, and make this first procedure before we carry on. Okay? Stop the video, give this a go. Right, the next thing we are going to do is we're going to have a look at setting a score. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, because the score is a variable, and as we went over at the start, a variable is something that we can change. Okay, so we're going to change a variable, so we're going to click this one. Okay. And we're going to set this variable to score. So at the start of the game, we want our score to be set as 0. So we're going to use maths and set it to 0, because it'd be no good having it set into 1. Alright, setting it to 0 so we can reset the game and start all over again. Here's where we need to make another variable procedure. And this procedure is going to tell us instructions of how to tell us how many points we've got, basically. So we're going to add another procedure. And this procedure is going to be called update score. Okay? So we can look at that and say, this procedure is to move the mole around, this procedure is to update our score. So what we're going to do in this one is we're going to set the score label text. So we're going to change the text so we can actually see what's going on. So we can drag that in there. And we need a combination of two things here, because I don't want it just to say 1, 2, 3, 4, because we don't know what that means. I want it to say score equals 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to join two things together. And what I'm going to include is this one here, where I can write score in there. So I might put dot, dot, dot. So the score is, and then whatever this is here. So we're going to get the variable again, because it's something that changes all the time. I'm going to get that from our global scores. So basically this how many we've got. What I want you to do is pause the video again, give this a go, and see how you get on. If you're struggling, rewind the video and see how you get on there. Right, so the next section we're going to go through is when we touch the mole, we want it to change the score, make a noise, and update what the score is. So, just a bit like last time when we did to press when the canvas was touched, we wanted to draw a line. We're going to go to the mole. So when the mole is touched, we want it to do something. So the first thing we're going to do is change our variable of the score. So we're going to change our variable. So we're going to set it to score, global score. So we're going to set the global score, and we're going to add 1. So we're going to go to maths, and we're going to add 1 into there. Okay, so we're going to set the global score to that, but we need to find out what the global score is. If it's 1, we need to make it 2. So we're going to set our variable and get it in the first place. So we're going to set the global score to what it is at the moment and add 1 to it. So we're going to get it, say it's 2, we're going to add 1, and then it's going to make it 3. The next part to this, so we've done the score. We want to make it have a noise, so like we set it before. So we're going to call the noise, vibrate. I'm going to get it to do it for about 100. So we're going to set it for 100, because that's how long we want it to last. So it won't last that long, it'll just last a second. We're also going to come back to the procedures now, okay? I'm going to call update score. So we're going to update the score, and we're also going to call the mole. So this is relating back to our procedures. So we made our procedure of update score, okay? And after all of that, when the mole is touched, we want it to call update score. So we want it to basically reflect back on it. The last thing we want to do is include the timer, because we've not actually included the timer yet. Okay, so when the timer is selected, we want to call mole move. So basically, when the timer is ready, we're going to select the mole move instructions. So it's going to move our mole to a different section of the canvas. So let's give that a go. So that's all of your programming sorted. Make sure now you stop the video, you give that a go. Okay, if you have to pause it and copy this thing, make sure you understand each sections of procedures and how they link back. Okay, and give it a go. The next section is we need to see if it works. So I'm going to pause the video here so it can load up. Obviously your emulator does take a minute or two to load up. So to show you that again, we're going to go to connect and then emulator. Alright, then it's going to connect to this AI starter, which is then going to get your imaginary phone up. Now I'm going to stop the video and I'm going to come back when it's all sorted. Alright, so this is what you can be doing, and you can see if it works. If so, go back to your task 2, okay, and I want you to carry on with the task sheet and give it a go, okay, making sure you understand the procedure, okay, and then giving it a go of how to make a procedure of a cup of tea. So I'm going to pause it, and then I'm going to come back in a second. Right, so I've got my emulator all sorted and ready. Okay, as you can see, my mole's moving around based on the time and the randomization. And my score, at the moment, it doesn't say anything, so let's give my game a go. So I clicked it, it set my score to 1, and fantastic, my app works. Okay, it's quite easy, this game, quite doing a good job. Alright, so what we need to do is, if you have finished your task sheet, okay, how could you make the game more difficult? Okay, and then once you've done that, why don't you try and make it a bit difficult if you've got a bit of time left? Alright, fantastic. Well done.